Hey, welcome to Restoration. My name is Matt. So glad you could join us on this Shabbat or whatever day you're watching this message. We're glad that you're hanging with us as we continue through our series, Blood Brothers, the story of the sons of Jacob. Last week, Joseph's brothers were overtaken on the road and their bags were searched and the silver cup was found in Benjamin's bag, and Joseph is still playing the snake. Remember from last week, we ended on a verse where they stand before him and he says in 44 and verse 15, "What is this deed you've done?" Joseph said to them, "Didn't you know that a man like me can discern by divination?" And those two words are nechesh v'nechesh. They're the same sound, but different roots. So in Hebrew, you would hear snake, snake, or divination, divination at the same time. And he planted the cup. He constructed the accusation. It's all part of his plan. What gets revealed now in the next 19 verses is really the center of this entire narrative from 37 to 50. Not Joseph's story, but Judah's. So today is part 18 of the series, and it's called Take Me Instead. And before we get to Judah's speech, we need to feel the weight of the man who gives it. We did several sermons on Judah, I think a few months ago now. The first time Judah speaks in this narrative, Joseph's in the pit. His brothers threw him in. They sat down to eat bread, and a caravan appears on the route. And the moment for a voice of courage arises, and Judah speaks in Genesis 37, verse 26. And Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come on, let's just sell him to the Ishmaelites." There's no compassion. There's calculation. What profit is there? Where is the money in killing him? We can make some money if we sell him. Verse 28, then some men, the Midianite merchants, passed by, and they dragged Joseph up and out of the pit, and they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph to Egypt. Now, 20 pieces of silver is the standard slave price in the ancient Near East. It's confirmed in the Code of Hammurabi. Then they kill a goat. They dip Joseph's robe in blood, and they bring it to their father. Jacob recognizes it and enters a mourning that will not end for the next 22 years. Judah did not just sell his brother, he broke his father. And then you remember when we talked about Judah, and Judah goes down. He goes down against, by choice, where Joseph is dragged down to Egypt against his will, but down, down, down. He goes down morally and spiritually and relationally. He abandons Tamar, and when he propositions his own veiled daughter-in-law, what does he offer her as a payment? A goat. Again. 3 months later, Tamar produces the pledge that Judah gave her, and he recognizes not just the objects that she has of his, that are part of his identity, but he starts to begin to recognize himself. Then Judah recognized, chapter 38 and verse 26, he recognized the objects and said, "She is more righteous than I." Well, this is the hinge point, the Tov, the good in him, the image of God breaking through the Ra long enough to speak the truth. Confession opens the door, but the man still has to walk through it. The Lord of Egypt will not see them again without Benjamin. He's the last son of Rachel, the one Jacob's life is now bound up in. And Judah says to his father in Genesis 43, verse 9, "I will be his pledge. You can demand him back from my own hand. If I don't bring him back to you and place him before you, then you can blame me all my days." The word for pledge we've talked about in this series is Erevan. It's the same word from the Tamar story, but there's no goat this time. He pledges himself. And now, in our present chapter, Judah has to make good on the pledge he made to his father. The vizier of Egypt means to keep his brother Benjamin. Genesis 44 and verse 16. So Judah said, "What can we say to my Lord? What can we speak? How can we justify ourselves? God has exposed your servant's guilt. We are now my Lord's slaves, both we as well as the one in whose hand the cup was found." Notice how many times he says we. What can we say? What can we speak? Well, if somebody stole it, it was only found in Benjamin's bag, so Benjamin's responsible. But Judah's saying, no, we're all responsible. We're all my Lord's slaves. Judah is deflecting Benjamin's guilt. Not the one who had the cup is guilty. The rest of us are innocent. We, all of us, the man who once asked, what profit is there, is now standing before an Egyptian lord saying, we are all guilty. We have all been found out, even though none of them actually did anything wrong. Joseph responds in verse 17, and he says, well, far be it from me to do what you're asking. The one in whose hand the cup was found, he will be my slave. But you go up in your father to Shalom. Go up in Shalom. You've done nothing wrong, Joseph is saying. Only Benjamin stays. Because Joseph's testing still. Will they leave the favored son behind again? I mean, he sure hopes so. Because that's what he wants. So Judah steps forward again, and this is the bulk of the speech, and begins in verse 18. Judah approached him and said, I beg your pardon, my lord. Please let your servant say a word in my lord's ear, and don't be angry with your servant, since you are like Pharaoh. What follows is one of the most carefully constructed speeches in all of the scriptures. And it's split really into two halves. In the first half, Judah recounts the story. He's caught between two impossible demands. The vizier said they couldn't return without Benjamin. His father said Benjamin can't leave. And then he says something in his speech to the vizier out loud that he's never said to anyone out loud, as far as we know. Verse 20, so he said to my lord, we have a father who's old, a child born to him of his old age is young. Now his brother is dead. So he's the only one of his mother's children left, and his father loves him. His brother is dead. That's Joseph standing right in front of him. And what he calls Benjamin, a child born of his old age, of his father's old age, that's the same phrase that's used of Joseph in Genesis 37. So Joseph is hearing his own description applied to Benjamin, but underneath there's something different, there's something deeper, which is Rachel died giving birth to Benjamin. And with her last breath, she named Benjamin Ben-Oni, which is son of my sorrow. But Jacob renamed him son of my right hand, Benjamin. But Joseph knows what that birth cost. They both lost their mother the day Benjamin entered the world. And Judah's pressing on every wound at once, and he doesn't even know it because he doesn't know it's his brother. So Judah quotes their father, verse 28. He said, one went out for me, so I said he must have been torn to shreds, and I haven't seen him since. And if you also take this one away, Benjamin, before me, and an accident happens to him, then you will bring my gray hair down to the evil of Sheol. Those are Jacob's words. But those words were authored by Judah's deception. Now they're spoken aloud to the son that Jacob has been mourning, standing right in front of him. He's saying, my father will go down to Sheol in Ra. Judah put his father on that road 22 years ago. And if Benjamin doesn't come home, he's going to finish the descent. And then comes the center of this narrative, verses 32 and 33. For your servant became a pledge for the boy with my father, saying, if I don't bring him back to you, I will bear the blame before my father all my days. So now, please, let your servant remain as my lord's slave in the boy's place, and let the boy go up with his brothers. Tachti, in my stead, in my place. It's one word with 22 years of formation. The whole offer compressed into one word. And notice what he says. He says he'll take my place, Tachti. But he also says, let the boy go up, because up is, for the first time in this speech, the direction changes. And we want to go up, not down. Genesis 44, verse 34, he says, for how can I go up to my father, and the boy is not with me? Else I must see the Ra that should come upon my father. How can I go up carrying Ra with all I've done before? He opened his father's life to pain 22 years ago. He cannot carry it home again. The only way up is takti, is take me instead. Let the Ra stop here with me. That's what Judah's saying. Nahum Sarna, the biblical scholar, he says, the one who had been responsible for the sale of Joseph into slavery now unwittingly offers to become the slave of his own victim. In Genesis 37, you have a favorite son. What profit is there? 20 pieces of silver, and the father goes down to Sheol and Ra. In Genesis 44, the favored son has take me instead. There's no profit, there's no silver, there's no transaction. So the idea, the hope is that the father doesn't go down to Sheol again and Benjamin can go up. Nahum Sarna also said that the story has come full circle and that the stage is set for the dramatic denouement brought on by Judah's noble gesture of self-sacrifice and the moving image of a father's misery. Joseph wasn't prepared for this. Not just the guilt, not just the regret. He wasn't prepared for the brother who said of him, what profit is there? Who now says, take me instead for his little brother. The false self, built on calculation, deception, avoidance, and false comfort, has given way to the real self. And the real self arrives as an offer of self-substitution for a beloved brother on behalf of an aging father. This is what Judah leaves his descendants, two patterns. The what profit is their pattern and the take me instead pattern. Or we could call them the Ra pattern or the Tov pattern. Now, we're going to focus on two of Judah's descendants. One follows each pattern. And the first is in every gospel. He's one of the 12. He carries the money bag. His name is Judas. Now, Judas is Judah. It's not a different name. It's the same name. Greek had no equivalent for the Hebrew word Yehuda, so they did the only thing they could do, which is transliterate it. That means they took the sound of the Hebrew and wrote them out in Greek letters. So Yehuda becomes Eodis, which becomes Judas in English. But every first century Jewish reader, every time they read the name Eodis, they heard the name of their patriarch, they heard Judah. And his second name, Iscariot, is Ish Kriot. In Hebrew, Ish means man. Kriot is a town in the territory of Judah. Same process, the Hebrew sounds transliterated into Greek, and Ish Kriot becomes Iscariot. The most widely held reading or understanding of the words is Judah, a man from Kriot, from the tribe of Judah, bearing the name of Judah. Now, Judah from Kriot follows the Ra pattern. He goes to the chief priest and he says, what will you give me? The same calculation as Judah in Genesis. The same crouching beast at the door. What profit is there? He offers to hand over the beloved son to people who want to destroy him. Now, from the beginning of the series, we've been in a world of shepherds. The first transaction in the story was shepherds assessing the value of the beloved son at 20 pieces of silver, the standard ancient Near East price of a slave. Now, the prophet Zechariah later sees this same transaction coming, but at a cosmic level. And in his vision, God himself comes as the true shepherd. False shepherds have abused and abandoned the flock, and when they're asked to pay the true shepherd his wages, the Lord speaks in Zechariah 11, verse 12. Then I said to them, if it seems good to you, pay me my wages, but if not, don't bother. So they weighed out my wages, 30 pieces of silver. Then the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, that exorbitant price at which they valued me. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw it into the house of the Lord to the potter. Now, 30 pieces of silver by Zechariah's time, the number has shifted from 20, but the category has not. Same transaction, same contempt, the price of a slave. That is what a faction of false shepherds valued God at, the price of a slave. And Zechariah throws it where? Into the house of the Lord, into the temple itself. And now Judah from Creote walks into a faction of chief priests, men who knew Zechariah by heart, and they weigh out 30 pieces of silver for the Son of God, and they value him as a slave. These are not the leaders of Israel acting on behalf of the people. This is a faction within the Sanhedrin, meeting illegally at night, violating Torah on witnesses and sentencing, and many members were deliberately excluded. These are false shepherds, not all Israel, not even most of the leadership, a faction. So from Genesis 37 to Zechariah 11, you have shepherds and a beloved son and a slave price, and the thread is running through. Now, before Judah from Creote goes to complete the transaction, he sits down at the Passover table with Yeshua and the disciples. The silver's already been agreed on. The beast is already in the room. Yeshua says one of them will betray him, and the disciples look at each other confused. Then, in John 13, verse 26, Yeshua answers, "It's the one I will give this bit of matzah to after I dip it." After dipping the matzah, he takes it and gives it to Judah from Creote, the son of Simon. Now, for Passover, the Torah commands that we eat bitter herbs, matzah, and lamb. But the specific act of dipping is not codified in Jewish tradition until centuries later. John is recording something intimate, a table practice for Passover, already alive in the first century Jewish homes. The matzah is dipped in bitter herbs, the very taste of slavery, the affliction of Egypt, the very bondage the Passover meal was instituted to remember. And Yeshua takes that matzah dipped in bitterness and places it in the hand of a man who just agreed to sell him for the price of a slave. And that matzah is the same image from Genesis 37, where the brothers sit down to eat bread while Joseph suffers in a pit. Now at the Passover table, matzah passes from Yeshua's hand to Judah from Creote's hand. In verse 27, it says, "And with that bit, Satan entered him." Then Yeshua tells him, "What you're about to do quickly." The beast that has been crouching since Genesis 4 finally gets all the way in. Judah from Creote gets up and walks out. Like Cain, he was not able to master the crouching beast, and it led him to the murder of his brother. And while Judah from Creote is out completing the transaction, Yeshua then spends chapters giving the most intimate teaching to the 11 who stayed. John 13 through 17 is the longest uninterrupted teaching in the Gospel of John, of Yeshua. And Judah from Creote misses all of it. He walked out while Yeshua was defining the Tov pattern for the men who remained. Things like John 15, verse 13. "No one has greater love than this, that he laid down his life for his friends." This is the word tachti, spoken out loud to the 11 who stayed. The man who needed it most wasn't in the room. And then for Judah from Creote, the guilt comes. Matthew 27, verse 3. "Then Judah, his betrayer, saw that Yeshua had been condemned, and feeling remorse, he brought the 30 pieces back to the ruling Kohanim and elders." The Greek word here is not repentance, metaneo, a genuine change of direction. It's the word for remorse, which is melomai. Sorrow over the consequences of sin. Guilt that sees what it has done but doesn't know where to take it. Judah from Creote then throws the money into the sanctuary of the temple, the same house of Adonai where Zechariah threw the contempt price 5 centuries earlier. And Matthew wants you to see it. Verse 4, he says, "I've sinned and I've betrayed innocent blood." He gets all the way to confession, right? I've sinned. He gets even further to innocent blood. But notice that he goes to the chief priest trying to reverse the transaction in the same currency that he made it. Remorse moves transactionally. It wants to undo and to make the guilt go away. But you cannot buy your way out of what you've done. And so it destroys him. The chief priests take the silver and they use it to buy a potter's field. And Matthew sees the fulfillment of prophecy from Jeremiah and Zechariah converging on this moment. The potter's clay, the contempt price, the worthless ground. And he quotes them both when he says in Matthew 27 and verse 8, "For this reason that field has been called the field of blood to this day." And then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah, saying, "And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him on whom a price had been set by the sons of Israel, and they gave them for the potter's field, just as Adonai had arranged for me." From Genesis 37 to Zechariah 11 to Matthew 27, shepherds, beloved son, slave price, 2,000 years. The potter's field is worn out. It's exhausted. It's good now only for burying strangers, and the field now bears his name. Judah from Creote follows the raw pattern all the way to the end. Remorse consumed him because it never became repentance, and the crouching beast won. In Genesis 44, Judah didn't just feel remorse. He steps forward. He opens his mouth. He offers himself. And he says, "Take me instead." Takti. The guilt had formed him into someone capable of a different action. So the second descendant of Judah that we look at is the one named Yeshua, from the tribe of Judah, the son of David, the son of Perez, the son of Tamar, traced by Matthew through the long, broken, beautiful genealogy we spent a whole sermon on in this series. The line runs through Judah's failure and Tamar's faithfulness and Perez breaking through, and it arrives here. Yeshua follows the Tov pattern. He steps forward. He stands before God the Father, and he offers himself in place of his brothers, the 12 tribes of Israel, his own people, the family of Jacob. "Take me instead. Let them go up. Let the punishment fall on me." And then, just as Joseph's revelation to his brothers became the means by which the whole world was fed, Israel then carries the good news to the nations through the seed of Abraham, through the tribe of Judah, through the self-offering of the Son. Blessing comes to every family on earth, to the Jew first and then to the Gentile. Yeshua gives himself for his brothers, and his brothers go and invite the nations to turn to Yeshua in repentance. And from the cross, nails in his hands, the people around him having no idea what they're standing inside of, he says the words that sound exactly like Judah's speech before the Lord of Egypt in Luke 23 and verse 34. But Yeshua said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." Judah stood before Joseph and said, "Do not punish them. Take me instead." And Yeshua hangs on the cross and says, "Father, do not punish them. They don't even know what they're doing." This is Takti, in my place, spoken all the way to death. Judah offered himself, and he meant it. But Joseph is going to stop him. He will not have to follow through. Yeshua makes the same offer, and there is no one to stop it. He goes all the way through, not as a transaction, but as pure self-offering. Take me instead, all the way to death. There's no goat this time. There's no animal substitute. There's no transaction. The pattern that started with the goat's blood covering a lie ends with the God-man offering his own blood to cover our sin. And this is what no one in the family could do before him. Every son of Jacob carries both Tov and Ra in them. And even Judah's finest moment comes after 22 years of Ra. Yeshua is the first descendant of Judah who walks the Tov pattern without the Ra underneath it. He's the first and only son of Jacob to do it all without sin. The ark is finished at last, and he did it for Judah from Creote too. He did it for all of us who have spent our lives following the wrong pattern. The symphony's been playing since Genesis 1. The same question in a different key through every generation. What will the image bearer do when the beast is at the door? Will they take or will they give? And then Yeshua, from the tribe of Judah, the seed of the woman, the completed ark, the theme resolves. Take me instead. Judah did not become the man of Genesis 44 by having a spiritual experience. He became him by doing the hard thing again and again until the Tov in him, the image of God that was always there, became louder than the beast. And Yeshua doesn't just quiet the beast. He defeats it. He plays it perfectly and without sin for all of us who have spent our lives playing it wrong. The question is not, which pattern do you carry? Because we all carry both. The question is, what will you do when the moment is in front of you? Who in your life is in a pit right now? And are you calculating profit or stepping forward? Who have you broken with your deception? Your father, your mother, your spouse, your child? And are you still handing over goats? Or are you ready to stand in front of them and say, I was wrong and I'm sorry? Who is the Benjamin in your life? The vulnerable one, the one who cannot protect themselves. And has God been asking you to be a pledge for them while you've been waiting for someone else to step up? Listen, the Spirit of God is doing that work in you right now through every hard season and every consequence you've ever had to carry and every moment of honest reckoning. The guilt that hasn't consumed you, it's forming you. The confession you haven't made yet, it's waiting to open a door. The question Genesis 44 leaves us with is simple and not rhetorical. Is there someone in your life who needs you to step forward and say, take me instead? A relationship you walked away from that you need to walk back into. A person you sold out that you need to go back for. A parent whose grief you authored that you have never faced. A Benjamin you pledged yourself for and haven't shown up for yet. Judah stepped forward. He opened his mouth. He made the offer. And my friends, that is what we are responsible to do. Now, you're not going to want to miss next week, because next week is the big reveal when Joseph reveals himself to his brothers and the entire narrative changes with amazing results. I hope you'll come back and join us as we continue through our series of Blood Brothers.